Welcome to Should I Learn NGS? NGS stands for a Next Generation Shell, and it is a modern programming language for DevOps. I'm Ilya Sher, the author of the project. How you decide whether you should learn NGS? Well, exactly 3 points. Well, first of all, is how much of what you're doing is aligned with what NGS was intended to solve. And these are the use cases. So if your use cases are aligned with what NGS is supposed to be doing, then in general, it's a good sign, but it's not enough. There is a frequency of the tasks which you will be doing when these tasks are aligned with the use cases. So if you're doing something DevOpsy, which is NGS was intended for, but you are doing it, let's say, once a month, well, probably not worth the trouble. If you are doing search scripting frequently, that would be translating into a lot of pain, and then NGS might be a good solution for you. Third point is very simple. If you're on Linux, on macOS, NGS can help you. It doesn't run on Windows for now. The rest of the presentation would be the use cases and should help you decide whether what you're doing is fitting well into what NGS was intended for, and therefore to decide whether you should learn NGS. So if you are running external programs a lot, well, you're covered in NGS. To the best of my knowledge, better than in any other language or library. There are many facilities for that. We'll get into that in a moment. Manipulate data. So for example, you called an API, got some data back, and now you need to transform or maybe select some fields, filter them. You're covered well in NGS. Sometimes you need to run things in parallel. It's pretty easy in NGS. You work with files a lot. Well, that's a sign that NGS might be for you. And the last thing, if you're constructing big pipelines in the shell with, I don't know, find, grab, set, whatever, NGS might be one of the tools on this pipeline. So you need to see. Okay, let's, it will be selective, non-deep dives into the intended use cases. It's not to be, it's not meant to be comprehensive. It's just to give you an overall impression what to expect. So first thing, running external programs. There are quite a few aspects to this. Let's go over the list of what NGS can do for you. Checking and asserting availability. That means if you need to check whether a program exists on the system, it's easier in NGS than in other places. Let's not mention. Sometimes number two is sometimes you have complex arguments and you need help in constructing them in order to call external program. You're covered. How you pass the arguments, well, it's pretty convenient to pass arguments. So NGS doesn't have this problem which Bash has, that arguments are expanded based on the contents. So for example, in Bash, if you do $X, that could be 0 or more arguments passed to the external program, depending on the data that was in X. And you need to properly quote each time. So in NGS, you don't need to remember quote all the time. It works properly each time. Controlling in doesn't matter. Sending signals, not very important. Getting all output. Okay, and number 7 is interesting feature, which I didn't see in any other language or framework. It is to run external program and parse the output in one go. Not the Go language, in one go, and have structured data as the result of this expression. We'll get into that maybe. You can customize parsing the output. So if you have like a special in-house utilities which return something very interesting, it's easy to define in NGS how you would parse the output of these utilities. Proper handling of exit codes. unlike Bash or whatever, anything else pretty much. There are facilities and there are exceptions which are thrown if the exit codes are not okay. Maybe we'll get into that in a bit. Signals are also handled and pipes are also here. So I picked some of these sub facilities of external programs just to show you in general what you might expect. So if program full, like here on the slide, that checks whether the program is on the system. It looks in path to find the program. So the if is as simple as this on the screen. You can also assert that the program must exist, and therefore the script will throw exception and will not continue execution below this line with assert program. Just out of curiosity, you can take and write this if in Bash and see how much uglier it gets. Okay, so running external program and parsing the output in one go. So double backtick syntax is exactly for that. So you see here curl, it fetches something from an API. And then at the point where you have dot status, the thing on the left already evaluated to a data structure. So it was JSON and now it's a data structure. So you can do dot status on that and compare it to something. Handling of exit codes. Well, so as opposed to some very simplistic handling of exit codes in other languages or frameworks even. Yeah, so this all I can do this in Python. Leave it aside for a moment, okay? So actually proper handling of exit codes. What do we see here in the example? If $grep blah, blah. So typically NGS throws an exception if the exit code is not okay. So what is exit code not okay? Well, it depends on the program. So because you cannot say that everything which is not 0 is actually an error. It is not. For example, in this example, grep would return 1 when it doesn't find the string in the file. So what is happening here? So grep returns 1. It is interpreted as not an exception. So this expression here inside if doesn't throw an exception. If it's 1, it evaluates the Boolean false and then else is executed. If it's 0, then the then clause is executed. So how NGS treats grep? 0 is true, 1 is false, and 2 is exception. 2 and others is exception. That's the proper handling of the exit codes. You don't get this out of the box anywhere else, as far as I know. Okay, what is additionally provided to handle exit codes? So there's an OK syntax, which you can see here on the left side in blue. You tell NGS which codes are OK, exit codes, and exception is thrown if exit code is not one of these codes. So if you have your own Snowflake script, you can easily handle the good exit codes. Data manipulation, just a bit of it, just an example. On the left side, we have NGS, on the right, Python. Well, I think that NGS is much more readable on the left than Python, and I personally don't like comprehensions that much. I think they are harder to read because they don't expose the intent upfront. Because in other languages, you have map and filter, and list comprehensions are mixing this, and you don't know which one is that when you start reading the expression. Now, a bit more of pattern matching. So in this example, we are looking at an array of objects, and we are looking for objects which have field, which is called sub-object. And in that field, we are looking for key n, and the value for that key should be 30. So as you can see, it is it's looking much better in NGS, and that is because it was the intended use case, as opposed to other languages, which are general purpose languages. Okay, how do you run stuff in parallel? Well, the typical use cases for running stuff in parallel are simplified greatly if you use NGS. That's the code on the left. You have pmap, which stands for parallel map. And that means that here we will run few threads and the fetching will happen in threads. And that's it. So the result of urls.pmap would be an array of 5 elements, each one with a fetched page. Just for example, you have Python translation on the right, and it looks, well, much worse. Working this file, so one of the examples would be temporary file. So if you create a temporary file in NGS, it will be automatically deleted for you when the script exits. I think it's pretty convenient. By the way, this example is a bit outdated. When you see $blah blah blah ls into t.path, you don't have to write .path anymore. The language will handle it for you. What else? And just one of the random, let's say, coolness factor features. The command line arguments are parsed automatically. So if your script is called from command line, the command line arguments will be matched with the parameters defined in the main function. So right here we see that the first argument from the command line will go to fname, and there's optional command line argument which is called do backup, which might or might not be present in the command line, and it will be okay, and it has a default of true. So what I hope to achieve with NGS, I want you to be happier at your job, or maybe less frustrated, let's say, in your job while you are trying to do DevOps scripting and are using NGS for that. What can you do if you decide that you should learn NGS? Here are some things which you could potentially do. Well, you can start running NGS to test, to try. You can get help if you get stuck. Don't hesitate. Contact me on Discord. I will help you. If it's something not very urgent, you can open a GitHub issue. And your contributions are welcome, whether it's feedback or helping others, or you want to design of the language. If you want to participate in the design of the language, how you would participate. For example, you have a use case which looks DevOpsy and it's not in NGS, then by design it should be in, and we can work together on the design, or you can propose something and we'll look into that. There's a lot to do, of course. And the last one is, of course, spreading the word. Let other people know. Maybe they have the same pain as I do, as you do, and NGS might help them. Thank you. So I hope this short video would help you to decide whether you should learn NGS. In any case, don't hesitate to contact. You will probably have some questions. That's fine. I'm here. We can also improve documentation and help in any other way. Thank you. See ya.